Welcome everyone to today's podcast. My name is Paul. I'm Peter in Scotland, a recovered addict. I'm really pleased to be joined today by Pippa.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Pippa and I'm an addict and I'm in Essex.
Welcome, Pippa. Thanks for being here today. And Ashley.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I'm Ashley. I'm calling from Cambridgeshire and I'm an addict. Thank you.
Welcome. Glad you're here with us, Ashley. So today we've got various topics on sobriety and we're all going to be sharing our experience on those topics and issues. So welcome to the podcast. There's going to be various things on the screen. Bear in mind, there are now 5 or 6 dozen podcasts on this channel on all different topics on the steps, spiritual malady, the ABCs of addiction. So I've recovered what now? Why do I keep relapsing? There's about 20 personal stories. And there's about half a dozen of these type of podcasts where we're here having a chat about the gifts and the life of sobriety. So please get involved, check out the other podcasts, wherever you see this posted on intherooms.com or on WhatsApp or Skype or indeed here on YouTube. Get involved, you can ask questions and reach out underneath these videos and we'll get back to you. Also, there'll be various things on the screen. We'll be having readings from our basic text, Alcoholics Anonymous, the big book. There'll also be information about how to get to face-to-face and online meetings. You can pause and rewind this whenever you wish. Brilliant. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and hand the floor over to Ashley.
Oh, thanks, Paul. Yeah, like I say, I'm Ashley. I'm a drug addict. But yeah, thank you for letting me attend this morning and share some topics that I've come to, like sort of written down this morning. But yeah, I'll start off with the first one that I've sort of been looking at. I've kind of gone with, what am I prepared to do about my recovery? And I think that all came about for me in a sense of that, I'd kind of tried everything around, this is before a program, I guess. Just kind of tried everything around my own, I guess, sound thinking or reasoning, either going into some kind of treatment-ish sort of way. And the only thing that's the only thing that's sort of worked is a 12-step program. And that was, what am I prepared to do about my own recovery kind of thing. And it's just doing this action-based recovery program for me and just kind of looking at things that I wouldn't really ever sort of normally think about doing. And, I'm not perfect by no means. It's, I'm still practicing this and, having this attitude of just learning it. I think it comes in practice in being in recovery for some time and wanting to learn about recovery. And I think it's that wanting that the reason why I'm still here doing this is that passion that I have with it. And, and that all, like I said, all comes about, what am I prepared to do? And, I've got to take some responsibility in this now. And, what am I prepared to do in the day to help my recovery? And I think that's start with it. If there's anybody sort of new or fresh back from a relapse listening, and, because, recovery, it can be easy or it can be hard. I guess it all depends on where that individual is and how bad they've had it and, what they want to do to improve their own life. And yeah, that's where I was. But yeah, I'll leave it there. But yeah, that's just what I thought on that topic, really.
Lovely stuff. Thanks, Ashley. That was great. Over to you, Pippa.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, I'm Pippa. I'm an addict and I'm a newcomer. So hopefully this podcast with me involved in it will reach other newcomers. I'm only just over 8 weeks into my recovery program. I personally have never tried any fellowships. I've never been to any rehabilitation placements. and I've never really tried anything at all in my 46 years of life to stop using drugs. But thankfully, just over 8 weeks ago, a beautiful family member of mine, my dear cousin, introduced me to this wonderful fellowship, and particularly the We Can Recover meetings. And what an absolute godsend it was to find this fellowship and these wonderful people in it. It's been a wonderful 8 weeks, a beautiful 8 weeks, an eye-opening 8 weeks for sure. The fact that I'm awake at 9:30 in the morning would have been unheard of 8 weeks ago. Me participating in anything at 9:30 in the morning would have been unheard of 8 weeks ago. But that is the beauty of recovery, that I'm up, the birds are singing, I'm present for my son, I have a lovely clear head this morning, I'm focused on the day ahead, I've already said my prayers to God, I've already done my gratitude list this morning, and I've already connected with other fellows. So for me, in my recovery, in these very, very early stages, they are key to my sobriety. They are key to me staying clean, and I feel truly blessed that I found this fellowship, and all I can say to any newcomers is grab it with both hands and get stuck in, and you won't fail if you follow everything that is suggested and you follow the text of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. When I first joined CA, I really struggled with a lot of the phraseology, the terminology, the phrases that people use. But in just 8 short weeks, I feel that I've got a grasp of a lot of the terminology that is used. I try to read my big book as much as I can daily. If not, I read the literature. I listen to Joe and Charlie, and I'm sure I can explain what they are to any newcomers that don't understand in a moment. But there's so much support out there, and I'm just so truly grateful to the fellowship friends that I've built up so far and the support that I'm receiving, because it really is a better way to live. I'll leave it there for now, Paul, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much. That was great. Thanks, Pippa. That was beautiful. Yeah, so that brings me to the next topic, which is the next right thing. Ashley already alluded to this. You know, it is an action program. It's what we do. We find freedom from the obsession to drink and drug through taking action, through practicing solution, through moving forwards. And I've heard it said, if you take care of what's right, God will take care of what's left. And I absolutely believe that. Now, I've got up on the screen, folks, into action. And it's largely this bit here, bottom of 84. We've ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol or cocaine or drugs. We've ceased fighting anything or anyone, even drugs. For by this time, sanity will have returned. We'll seldom be interested in drugs, and alcohol is a drug. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally. We'll find out this has happened automatically. We'll see that our new attitude towards liquor and towards drugs has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That's the miracle of it. We're not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We've not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It doesn't exist for us. We're not cocky, nor are we afraid. That's our experience. That's how we react, so long as we keep in a fit spiritual condition. It's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest upon our laurels. We're headed for trouble if we do, but alcohol is a subtle foe. We're not cured of alcoholism. What we have is a daily reprieve, contingent diligent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities. How can I best serve them? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. If we've carefully followed directions, we've begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. To some extent, we've become God conscious. We've begun to develop this vital sixth sense, but we must go further, and that means more action. Now, it is an action program. The freedom comes from the action we take, our footsteps with God, and these are footsteps towards God. The steps of a good person are ordered by God. Over the years, I've met and known and buried a lot of addicts, and most of them are really good folk. They just like getting high, but the problem is, or getting low, depending on the drug of choice or drug of no choice. The problem is it's so destructive that it prematurely kills them. You know, I've sat around hospital beds with folks 6 stone and withering, family members, folks I've sat in meetings with. And there's a killer illness. Someone dies every 8 or 9 seconds of addiction somewhere around the world. So while you're taking this breath, someone somewhere is taking their last breath. And they never had the beauty of the fellowship, the wonder of the steps. They never had the privilege of this message of hope, faith and courage. And, you know, we're so blessed and privileged today that all this knowledge, all this truth, all this wisdom is open source. You know, it's all there. There's nothing mystical. It truly is about getting right with God. You see, it was never anything to do with anyone else. It's between the individual and God. Now, some people, when they hear God, they hear religion. That's not what we mean. That's not what we mean. We're talking about the Creator, the source of all life, who is invisible. So when people hear God, they think of humanity and humanity's efforts to reach God. Well, God is reaching humanity. Otherwise, humans wouldn't be here, they'd be dead. See, so God is already in the midst of every living creature anyway. It's a question of the program is moral psychology plus the power of God. That's what it is. It's moral psychology plus the power and goodness of God. And ultimately, the mystery is, and I have friends, Pippa and Ashley, who got years of sobriety, and they're utterly convinced that it's not God. They've done it. And of course, the bigger picture is that the goodness of God leads all folks to turn from that which is wrong to live a better life. Now, I understand that delusion. You know, I do. Persons think they're doing it, and in a sense they are, but God is giving them power to do His will that becomes their will. So they're doing the will of God, but they think they're the Alpha and the Omega. They think that they're God, really. That's what happens. They think that they're doing it all. And of course, that's partially true. But the bigger picture is that God is giving them power to do His will. Now, this program is a spiritual program, which means it's pertaining to spirit. Well, you can't see spirit, but the body is dead without the spirit. You can't see the wind, but you can feel its effects. See, you can't see the sunlight, but you'd be dead with. The sun's been hanging in the sky for millions of years. There it is. You know, so you know, just to summarize what I want to say, really, it's an action program, but it involves the power of God and the fellowship, these wonderful steps, you know, and the program is largely about developing this God consciousness, because if you've got that and you've gone through the steps and you're practicing this program, then the obsession to drink and drug just won't be there. It could be completely removed. And of course it says there the proper use of the will is to do the will of God. So it's the language of the heart that we deal with in these rooms. It really is. And faith is like a muscle; it grows with use. We learn and we grow and we change. So I think I'll just leave it there, and I'll pass it back to Ashley.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Yeah, great message. Yeah, I mean, going on my second topic then, like what Paul was just kind of saying, kind of similarizes what my second topic is. Understanding thoughts and thinking, outside and in recovery, from my own experience, really. I guess this goes out to anyone that's listening for the first time, or just anyone in recovery, really, or anyone that's struggling, or anyone that's back from a relapse. Because the whole purpose of me coming into recovery is my thinking and my thoughts around my thinking. And I can't seem to gain any kind of control around the idea of using drugs or using alcohol when it comes to my own sound reasoning or thinking. I guess everything else kind of becomes normal, but when it comes to me, believing that I can control or moderate or believe that I can have control over that is something that I used to believe in, and that's why I'm here in these rooms, really. And that's, I just got to a point where I just couldn't kind of get into any kind of reasonable place where I could, control and moderate how much I use. And that's, this is the real reason why these, rooms are about, and fellowships are about, for people like myself and, everyone else in recovery. Because my it's that initial idea that, I'll be all right, and all this kind of notion around the idea of, addiction. And I suppose once a certain individual has reached the point where, they just, I said it earlier, I think it's just this wanting to be a part of it. And, old behaviors, they do come and go, but it's, what, and going back onto that other first one, what am I prepared to do about it? And that's what it all boils down to now is, I've got to take some accountability for what I'm doing, and, not kind of blaming someone for something that I've done, which I'm still practicing, and it's all a practice thing. And, because it's all I don't know what it is all to do with. I think it's just this idea of, handing it over and just asking for some help, and, reaching out to somebody in recovery or whoever it may be. And I guess just doing, people say it, but, just doing that next right thing, whatever it means to you. Because thoughts, they do, I get that, they do come and go, and, recovery isn't easy. It's taken me a long, windy, sort of horrific road to get to where I'm at today, to just talk about my experience around drug addiction, and not just kind of, sugarcoat it and say that it's all right and all that sort of stuff. But for me, it was just a place where I think I just reached a place where I can see what happens to me. I can see all this drama that comes of it. And that wasn't enough. And for me, like I said earlier, I think it all come about with this, this personality change, and recovery gives you a new way of thinking the more you get into it. And this is what it's all about, not really worrying about what others are thinking and what he said or what she said. It's just to do with, I think, that, we have to kind of, if we're in a clearer mindset, then everything else around us becomes clearer. And yeah, that's just what wanted to go on around that thought and thinking subject. But yeah, thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ashley. Thank you. Over to you, Pippa.
Yeah, I just want to come in and talk on a little bit of what Ashley just mentioned about doing the next right thing, because this program has taught me so much more in my early stages of sobriety than just abstinence from drugs. It's taught me about myself. It's taught me about how I need to change in myself and not the things around me. So I do find myself regularly throughout the day asking God for inspiration, asking God for guidance. And I also find that is coming into me because I check myself throughout the day on how I'm reacting to people, how I'm speaking to people, and how I'm conducting myself. So what I mean by that is that before I came into recovery, my reactions would be instinctive and often aggressive, often angry, and most often without any thought. Whereas now, when I react to people, I sit and I think and I ponder my responses before I give them. And I find that by doing that, by checking myself, by asking for God's guidance, that I'm so much more respectful to people. I'm so much more caring towards people, so much more understanding of how my reactions may affect others. And that's all been brought about by the beauty of this fellowship and how it's teaching me, as I say, not only my abstinence from drugs, but it's teaching me a better way of living. And it really is a better way of living. I get so much more done. It's mad, isn't it, when you think that we take drink and drugs to lift us up or to give us energy or to motivate us. But what I found in the past 8 weeks is that I've done so much more in terms of productivity in my life, getting things done when I've not been under the influence of drink or drugs than I ever did when I was under the influence. And that to me is quite a crazy thing to admit, because cocaine was my drug of choice. And I often felt that by using it, I'd have more energy. It would give me the get up and go that I needed in the morning, to get on with my day and to be productive throughout the day. But when I look back now, I realise I wasn't getting anything done. I wasn't productive. I'd start something and not finish it. Whereas now I'm so much more focused because I have the guidance of God and I ask for his guidance throughout the day. I regularly say the Serenity prayer to myself throughout the day. And it is a very lovely prayer. It's a very appropriate prayer, but it's also quite a short prayer. And for newcomers, it's easy to learn, it's easy to understand, and it's easy to remember. And so just teaching yourself things throughout the day, like the Serenity prayer, like checking your responses to people, like checking your behaviour around people, smiling at people rather than having a frown on your face. All of these things I think is me bringing God consciously into my whole way of being. And so it's very, very important to get that conscious contact with God in the very early stages of sobriety, because that does help you to do the next right thing and to keep moving forward positively. But I'll leave it there for now. Thank you, Paul.
Lovely stuff. Thanks, Pippa. That's great. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, great share. So I've got another topic here, and it's the fellowship. I love the word fellowship. It's a ship that we're all on. It's a ship full of fellows. It's something that floats and has buoyancy and preserves life, wherein is everything vital to life on a ship: food, water, comfort, warmth, light. And we're part of a fellowship. We've got things in common. Our common welfare. Everyone on the ship wants the ship to keep floating. It's a great word, the fellowship. What do we mean? Well, we mean spending time with other folk that are having the same experience. That's all we mean. And I've been privileged to know a lot of folks for a long period of time now. And if I needed to call anybody, I could do. I think I've got over 800 numbers on my phone, more, and lots of folks that have recovered and find a new way to live, and they're not bedeviled and deluded. They're largely free, not just from alcohol and drugs, but free from alcoholism. Getting clear of alcohol and drugs is just the beginning. For most of us, it's a long period of reconstruction. And separately, the more time we spend in fellowship with other folks that have also recovered, the better off we are. So the essence of the first thing that the doctor mentions in the doctor's opinion is the fellowship. He doesn't mention steps, meetings, or literature. He mentions the fellowship, which is just folk helping folk, just like we're doing right here this morning. And here on page 152 on the screen, it says, yes, there's a substitute. It's vastly more than that. It's a fellowship in Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and the 100 other 12-step groups that have come from AA. There you will find release from care, boredom, and worry. Your imagination will be fired. Life will mean something at last. The most satisfactory years of your existence lie ahead. Thus we find the fellowship, and so will you. Where will I find these folks? Well, all of you make lifelong friends. You'll be bound to them with new and wonderful ties. But you will escape disaster together, and you will commence shoulder to shoulder your common journey. See, then you will know what it means to give of yourself, that others may survive, and rediscover life. You will learn the full meaning of love your neighbour as yourself. It may seem incredible that these folks are to become happy, respected, and useful once more. How can they rise out of such misery, bad repute, and hopelessness? The practical answer is that since these things have happened amongst us, they can happen with you, and with you, and with you. Should you wish them above all else, and be willing to make use of our experience, we're sure they will come. The age of miracles is still with us. Our own recovery proves that. Our hope is when this chipper book is launched on the world tide of alcoholism and addiction, defeated alcoholic addicts will seize upon it and follow its suggestions. Many, we are sure, will rise to their feet and march on. They will approach still other sick ones, and fellowships of AA, CANA may spring up in each city and hamlet, havens for those who must find a way out. In the chapter Working with Others, you gathered an idea of how we approach and aid others to help. Suppose now that through you several families have adopted this way of life. You'll want to know more of how to proceed from that point. Perhaps the best way of treating you to a glimpse of your future will be to describe the growth of the fellowship among us. To know that there's folks, I suppose first thing to point out is 12-step recovery, largely for 60 plus years has been purely in a face-to-face environment. So you meet folk in a real room 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week, depending on how many meetings there are and how often they meet and how big your town or city is. But certainly online recovery started about 20 years ago, and it's still very much minimal. That's the truth of it. Although to us, we have the blessings of Zoom every day, it's maximal. But as regards the vast majority of the membership of 12-step recovery, however much we wish it different, it's still minimal. And however much we wish it different, the effect of 12-step recovery has affected well over 20 million lives over a generation. But when you think of 8,000 million folk on the planet, it's still minimal. So we've got to do what we can in our corner of the vineyard, not the best of puns, but we've got to find how we can serve God and serve other folk and be helpful in the circumstances we're in with the resources available to us to encourage and comfort and console others with a message of hope and freedom, you see. So the essence of the whole thing is to find other folk to help and support. And we largely do that through the fellowship. Now, in a face-to-face setting, over a period of time, you would generally find out that most of the folk attending don't live that far away. You know, and if they don't show up, if they're chronic addict alcoholics and they don't show up, you can go around and ask them how they are, if they need any help. Now, in the online world, it's not quite the same. So in a face-to-face setting, there's nothing quite like seeing folks recovering in front of you week after week, month after month, and year after year. I believe it very much helps in your assurance that sobriety, long-term permanent sobriety, is achievable by anybody. In the world of Zoom, if your relationship is right with God, the Creator, then if the vertical is right, the horizontal will be right. If the vertical is not right, then the horizontal won't. That's the essence of the program. And one of the reasons why I think it's essential to emphasize this personal, transparent, accountable relationship with God, the Creator, is for this reason. Because a lot of the folks that love Zoom don't attend many or any face-to-face meetings, and that's their personal choice in the real world. That's up to them. However, this is a killer illness, so it's very important that such individuals develop and maintain a responsible relationship with God. At least that's how I see it. And so in the fellowship we learn about the problem. We learn about the solution. When we get away from the fellowship, and it's not just meetings, that's spending time with folks that have recovered and found a new way to live. And, we're reminded of the problem. Even because you're self-aware of the problem, you're self-aware of you realize you need a solution, so you continue to enlarge your spiritual journey and learn more about sobriety and how to live life without drinking and drugging. And how to learn to live again. And it is a long period of reconstruction. So yeah, the fellowship, the shared experience, and there's much in the book about the fellowship. And the beautiful thing about Zoom is that there's such a proliferation of meetings. There's probably over 500, maybe 1,000 Zoom meetings happening right now. God's at work in all those meetings. God's voice, the message of hope, faith and courage is heard in all those meetings right now. But certainly, face to face is a very powerful thing. So that's about it. I think what I'll do is I'll pass it over to Ashley.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, I'm Ashley. I'm a drug addict. Yeah, my third topic I came up with is when things are not going well, what do I need to do? That could mean either in recovery or outside of recovery, or just wanting to know. Just wanting to know a way out. Like I said, even if you are in recovery or you're fresh into recovery, and I think that what I kind of meant by, when things are not going well, what do I need to do is either, when you're struggling in recovery, or you're still using, but you can't seem to stop, or you just had enough, basically. And my solution was, or is that, the first instance is, coming, getting yourself a home group, or just listening to people in recovery and getting some idea of what it is that we need to do, and listening to others and gaining some kind of connection with somebody that you identify with. I think is what I did, and what's kept me in it is is relating to what others are saying, and just starting to look at this way of life as a, not a thing of it's gonna, stop this thing from happening to me. I think it's just, I think I said it earlier, it's just wanting to be a part of it, and not thinking that if I do this, if I do that, I think it comes from a place where we're just so tired of active addiction, and it's just took its toll on us, and we're wanting to kind of do some suggestions that, when we come into recovery, we listen to some people, people sharing, and we get a sponsor, and we can go into a home group, and we get close to other people within that home group, and you get asked to do certain things in recovery, and I think the most important thing about recovery is that, what am I like, or what am I like with other people outside of recovery, and this is where it all starts, is recovery. It gives you a new way of life, and it enables you to act in a normal way, without sort of acting in an inappropriate manner to others, and that could quite easily take you back out there, like it has done to me so many times. And starting, like doing the program, and the program becomes less and less, because the illness of addiction will take me there if it wants to. I believe, I start to believe that I'm all right now, and I don't need to do as much as what I used to do. And more and more I get into recovery, I need to do more. I can't sit back and think I'm 2-3 years in and I can get away with doing a little bit. I think it's just consistency around this, and I'm not getting tired of it, and looking at different sort of avenues, or picking up the book and just looking at different chapters within the book, and because I have, I've relapsed when I have been in recovery, and it's just looking at all these things, what was going on for me, what was my thought process like, and just kind of taking a bit of a recap on it, and thinking about some of the things that I can do going forward to kind of look at, and maybe you might need a new sponsor, I don't know, or something's not, it's all just trial and error, I think, in recovery, and everyone's got their own individual experiences. But I think at the end goal of it all is that we're all trying to get well within this, and I think that's just the main objective here, is just, we just want to live a peaceful existence within recovery. But yeah, I'll leave it there, Paul. Thank you.
Beautiful stuff, Ashley, as always. Thanks for sharing. That was brilliant. Pippa.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I'm a real lover of words, and I love reading. And what I've discovered in my early stages of sobriety is that when I come across words in the big book that I'm not too sure of their meaning or how they apply to the big book, I find that a really useful place to start is with dictionary definitions. So if you find a word, or you come across a word in the big book and you're not too sure what it means, the best place is to go to the dictionary definition of that particular word. Paul, you were talking a few moments ago about the meaning of fellowship, and I just want to quickly share the dictionary definition in the Cambridge Dictionary of what fellowship means. And the dictionary definition in the Cambridge Dictionary says a friendly feeling that exists between people who have a shared interest or are doing something as a group. And that beautifully describes this wonderful fellowship, because we do have a friendly feeling. There is so much unity in the rooms. And we have a shared interest, which is clearly to abstain from drink and drugs. and we are doing something as a group. We are getting clean as a group. So I always love to read words, but also to understand the meaning of words. And the power of the word fellowship brings me on to the topic of loneliness, because Paul, you were talking about face-to-face meeting and Zoom meetings. My recovery journey personally, and I know it's not right for everybody, has literally only been around the Zoom rooms for personal reasons and personal circumstances. It's quite impossible for me to go to face-to-face meetings. So the Zoom platform has been an absolute godsend, as I keep saying to me. It has introduced me to this wonderful fellowship, but it has also saved me from the hell of loneliness, because drink and drugs, they start off in a party environment. We enjoy ourselves. We're going out with our friends at the weekends. But as I found for me personally, and as I've heard as a common theme across the rooms, is that it quickly draws us into being lonely. It wants us isolated. It wants us using on our own. It wants us hiding away. It wants us feeling paranoid. It wants us wondering who's at the door rather than just getting up and opening it. It wants us twitching the curtains and worrying who's outside. So the enjoyment goes. And then we find ourselves in active addiction and very, very lonely. But the power of the fellowship, and I go back to the dictionary definition of fellowship again, but the power of the fellowship brings about a massive change in loneliness, because I don't feel lonely anymore. I have so many beautiful fellowship friends that have literally come about as a result of my recovery, that I don't need to feel lonely anymore. And I have people that I can reach out to. And as you often say, Paul, connection is the opposite to addiction. So anytime you feel your mind wandering, having this wonderful fellowship and the ability to reach out to others is overwhelming, and so important for all of our recoveries. So for any newcomers out there, I suggest that you really do build a sober network, that you get connected with as many people as you can, and that you reach out in times of need. Because not only does reaching out help your own recovery, but often you will find that by picking up the telephone, you are helping out somebody else as well, because you may catch them in a state of despair, and be able to calm them down or to help them through their day. And so that is the beauty of fellowship. So I just wanted to share on that, Paul. Thank you very much.
Lovely stuff. Thanks so much, Pippa. That was great. So the next topic is working with others. And indeed, we've got an entire chapter on called exactly that in our basic text, which is on the screen. So the bit I wanted us to look at is page 89, which should be there. Let's have a look. Working with others, right. Practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking and drugging as intensive work with other alcoholic addicts. So it kind of feeds into the topic of fellowship. So the next thing then is the purpose is to try and help other folk, and to spend time helping other folk recover, and to teach these 12 steps. The purpose of the group is the teaching and practice of the 12 steps. When other activities fail, and I've seen that over the years, folks that just want to recover and then become self-centered again. God bless them, but very often, well, particularly for chronic, there's all different types of alcoholics, different substances, different frequency of usage, different quantities, different life circumstances, different conditions of health, finance and relationship, career, all this kind of thing, single, not single, family, no family, age. But for anyone that wants to stay clean, particularly for chronic addict alcoholics, working with essential. I heard someone say that the person that most needs to hear what you've got to say is yourself, which is quite profound if you think about it. That said a couple of weeks ago. Also, the the restoration to sanity happens through the truth. The steps are about the truth. See, the truth is you can't use a booze successfully without incurring all kinds of consequences. The truth is that folks like the effects produced by alcohol and other drugs, but mercifully, they end up in meetings because they no longer like the consequences produced by drinking and drugging. See, so then they're faced with a dilemma. You know, they can't quit, but they can't or won't stay clean. And much of it is fear. Fear is a terrible master. Persons are fearful of getting clean, and they're fearful of not being high. You see, although depending on their substance. So either way around, spending time regularly, which is what we just talked about with fellowship. And the next thing then is to find other you'll often find in the fellowship that are struggling to learn to live clean. You know, and as I say, it's a long period of reconstruction. You know, God gives us the privilege of becoming co-workers with God, and God people across your path that you can encourage, you know, and assure and console and comfort. You know, and our message is hope, and our promise is freedom, that anyone can recover. And my experience has been that folks need to be heard. Folks need to be validated. Folks need to be heard. You know, and a lot of folks come to 12-step recovery with very low self-image, see, very low self-worth. So we've got to be very cautious how we approach them, and very often they need to be heard and validated. But at the same time, they need to learn what the problem is and what the solution is. You see, and one of the reasons why new persons can be very egotistical and arrogant is because they're fearful. And they've got low self-image. They feel they're not good enough, that they don't know enough. So they become very egotistical for that reason. So things are very complex. Humans are very complex because, of course, every human is made in the image of the Creator. But, of course, they are not the Creator. See? So the desire for perfection, for sinless perfection, is in every human. And so it's all very complex. You see, self-image absolutely has to do with sobriety. Although it's not specifically the topic of the 12 steps, certainly your self-image and self-esteem grows by taking the steps and then finding someone else to help. See, because God will bless you in the process, trying to help others, trying to bless others, you see. So the purpose is to work with others, to find folk that are worse off with you, worse off than you, open up the book with them, and trust in God to work the miracle. And also having things in place on a daily basis is vital to ongoing sobriety. Because what we can do is, you see, we can become self-centered again instead of God-centered. You know, and if we are not working with others regularly, it's easy to become deluded and self-centered again. Well, addiction is a self-centered problem. The whole problem of addiction is instant gratification, self-centeredness, you see. And so when we start spending time trying to help others, trying to carry a message of hope to others, trying to be available for others, it's a completely new way of life. Your vital spiritual experience no longer comes as a cocaine hoover or you know, out of a spoon or out of a bottle, but rather through meetings, literature, working with others, prayer, and things like this, you see. And so you have an ongoing spiritual experience that's sufficient to keep you free from using and boozing, you see. And you certainly find purpose, connection, expression whilst working with others. So I shall just pass it back to the group. Over to you, Ashley.
Yeah, thanks for that, Paul. Yeah, I'm a drug addict. Yeah, just to kind of recap what I was saying earlier, really, some of the topics that I sort of threw out in the podcast. You know, one of them was, you know, what am I doing about my recovery? The second one was understanding thoughts and thinking in recovery, and then the third one was, when things are not going well, what do I need to do? And I think as a overall of an understanding of all those three topics is that ultimately, I believe that my recovery, or anyone's recovery, has to be a centered based thing of, like what Paul was just saying, really, is as having something planned, or doing something that involves you doing something in recovery, sharing at a meeting, or getting involved with someone in recovery that's new, or that's still in recovery, that's been in recovery for a time, and reading, or something that I mentioned it earlier, is just practicing. And sometimes I fall short on things, but I think it's this thing of just being aware of what I'm falling short on, and what I need to do in recovery to keep me a sane person. And I think that's what we're all trying to achieve, is just to be sane. And ultimately, I think that no one can keep me clean, and that's what I've come to the conclusion of, is that I've tried every imaginable I guess remedy, like we all hear in the meetings, everybody shares about this, but I couldn't, I wanted to stay, I really wanted to kind of stay clean for family members, and doing things, or buying things, or having nice things to control my usage, but it never worked. And like I said at the start of the meeting, the only thing that's kind of kept me on this path is a 12-step program of tapping into this power that spoke about, to to restore that neutral way of thinking. But I think it all comes about with, i.e., if you're a newcomer or fresh in, and you just you can't stop, and the only way to stop, I believe, is a 12-step program. But being in a place where you've just had enough, and you just want something, you want a new life, and you want to know something different, without you thinking that you can stop yourself. But yeah, I'll just leave it there, Paul. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. Thank you. That was great. Over to you, Pippa.
Just want to read from page 89, if I can, because this follows on from what I was saying a moment ago. It's the second paragraph on page 89, which reads, "Life will take on a new meaning. To watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives." That holds so much meaning to me in these early stages of recovery, and is so powerful to me, because it really, it has come true. My loneliness is vanishing. The fellowship is growing up around me, because there's more and more people coming into my life. I have a host of friends, and it's an experience that I don't want to miss. And I hope that anybody else out there listening to this podcast today will take these words on board and realise that they need this fellowship in their lives, and that they won't want to miss this beautiful recovery process, and they won't want to not be part of this wonderful fellowship. It really is amazing, and it really does bring about miracles every day, certainly into my life, and hopefully into the lives of the people now that I'm able to touch as part of the fellowship, but also the people that I can touch around me in my personal life. And I touch them in a kinder, more caring way than I ever did before coming into this fellowship. So it is very, very important to work with others. I'm certainly nowhere near down my steps far enough to be able to positively sponsor anybody, because I haven't completed the steps myself. But what I can do as a decent, functioning fellowship human being is be there for others, to listen to their woes and to provide them with words of encouragement. So even in the very, very early stages of sobriety and recovery, that's the way that you can work with others, even if you're not through the steps. It's just by being there and being courteous, caring and kind to people. It's a really, really powerful chapter of the book, and very, very worthy of rereading. So I'll leave it there. Thank you, Paul.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Pippa. That was absolutely beautiful. It really was. Yeah, so that does bring us to the end of today's podcast. I want to thank Pippa for taking the time here today. Phenomenal contribution. Ashley, thank you to you as well for being here and for your contribution. It's been phenomenal hearing you both. On the screen at the moment is lots of meetings. All the ones in green are on every single day. So there's lots and lots of Zoom meetings. We're to be found regularly at a meeting called We Can Recover that's on 3 times a day, every day. 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9:30 UK times, and that's the meeting ID in the top centre. Remember, you can pause this screen on YouTube. You can also send this podcast to folk. There's lots and lots of phenomenal meetings, and the UK Samaritans numbers at the bottom right. The CA UK helpline is at the bottom right. So you can always get to meetings. You know, there's hundreds of meetings on right now on Zoom. If you want to know about face-to-face meetings in the UK, the web address Top Dead Centre, cocaineanonymous.org.uk. You can find out about up-and-coming UK events, online meetings, face-to-face meetings. There's also literature pamphlets that you can read on there as well. So it's been a really strong meeting. Once again, Pippa, are you there? Thanks for coming here today.
No, thank you, Paul, for asking me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you to Ashley too.
Splendid, splendid. And Ashley, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you again, Paul, for inviting me, and yeah, thanks, Pippa, for your shares. Much appreciated. But yeah, once again, thank you.
Lovely. Well, it is a wee program, you know. Thank you so much for being here. You know, we've talked about the next right thing. We've talked about the fellowship. We've talked about working with others. We've looked at various topics, and once again, you know, there's lots of podcasts channel and lots of other great podcasts on YouTube. So if you're struggling with drug addiction, come to some of these meetings, pause this screen, take a screenshot, come to some of these meetings where you can hear the message of hope, faith and courage, and find a brand new way to live. Okay, stay strong, stay safe, family.